Good morning. My name is Kate Fronta, and on behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our online worship service. We are a welcoming community. We are diverse in thought, in belief, in practice, in appearance, in gender identity and expression, and in whom we love. You, too, are welcome wherever you are on your journey. Thank you for joining us today. And today is a bit of an experiment as our fearless AV team branches out into new territory. Today, Reverend Tracey will be coming to us live from her home. So hats off to our amazing AV team and staff for spreading their wings and a little bit more and more each week. And now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is by the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been is with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share.
My friends, today we share some sad news. We will dedicate our chalice lighting today to honor the memory of long-term member Herb Sargent, who passed away January 22nd. Herb and Marion have been members of First Unitarian Church since about 1970. And though he was not able to attend in recent years due to health issues, Marion is still quite active here. They had 2 children and have 2 grandchildren. Herb was a brilliant chemical engineer who could solve any problem and who designed entire plants for the DuPont company, where he worked for 41 years. He also was an accomplished amateur photographer, picking up the hobby back in high school. I talked with Marion this week, and she spoke so lovingly of Herb's sense of humor and his dedication as a father. She referred to him as a solid person, really appreciating how he was always there for her. In these final years, Marion was certainly always there while he was at Willowbrook Court. A memorial service is planned later in February, and we will share details as they become available. So today, we light our chalice to remember Herb and to hold Marion and the extended Sargent family in our hearts. If you have a chalice at home, please join me by lighting it now.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek it find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regrets, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Thank you, Lori and Jim. Thank you. Please join me in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. Today, for Time for All Ages, I am sharing an ancient tale from Burma called A Drop of Honey. Once upon a time, a queen sat on her balcony eating biscuits and honey with her chief advisor. As they ate, they gazed down at the busy street. The queen pointed to something in the distance, and as she did, a drop of honey from her biscuit landed on the sidewalk below with a splat. "My queen, you have spilled a drop of honey," observed the advisor. "Should you clean it up?" But the queen laughed. "A little drop of honey is not my problem." Soon, flies gathered around the honey. Then a lizard darted out from underneath the palace wall and began to catch the flies on her tongue. A cat sprang from the baker's shop and began to bat the lizard back and forth like a toy. Just then, a dog charged out from the butcher's shop and began to bite the cat on the neck. "Your Highness," the advisor implored, "now the flies have attracted a lizard, which attracted a cat, which is now being attacked by a dog. Shouldn't we call someone to stop the fight? But the queen only stretched and shook her head at her advisor. Won't you relax? A silly animal fight is not my problem. In fact, the baker did see to it. She saw the dog attacking her cat and ran out with her rolling pin and began to hit the dog. When the butcher heard the dog howling and ran out with his broom and began to hit the cat. Soon, the butcher and baker were hitting each other. And the queen said, "It's not my problem." Then the neighboring shopkeepers began to take sides, joining in the fight. Some soldiers came along, but some knew the butcher and some knew the baker. So the soldiers too took sides, and the battle grew. The queen looked on and said, "It's not my problem." The fight grew and grew until a great battle waged in the streets. People were throwing rocks through windows and tipping over the vendor carts. Someone picked up a torch from the wall and hurled it through a window. Fire raged, and eventually it spread to the palace. Later that day, when the fire died out, the queen and her advisor surveyed the ruins of the land. Suddenly, the queen stopped in the street underneath where her balcony used to be. She reached down and touched something in a small puddle on the ground. "It's honey," she said, remembering. "I guess I should have cleaned up that drop of honey in the first place. Now my whole kingdom has been lost because of it." That was the last day that the queen ever said, "It's not my problem." I wonder what it means to be responsible for something. I wonder if it is important for people to be responsible for things they do and things they don't do. I wonder how we can hold one another responsible and how we can challenge someone to be responsible while holding them in love.
Friends, I invite you to center down and join with me in the words of this prayer written by the Reverend Angela Herrera. Sometimes when we pray, we bow our heads because it is we and not our neighbor who need prayer. We bow our heads that we might listen and be comforted. We are weak and need strength. We are frightened and need courage. We are humble and thankful. Sometimes we pray facing the heavens, receptive, life flowing over and through us. We are anxious and need patience. We are searching and need direction. We are grateful and radiant. And sometimes our prayers pour forth, "O God, O life, O mystery." We pray for all who will be born into this dangerous and beautiful world today. And we pray for all who will die. Love pour down on them. May they be safe, and may we. May they be at peace, and may we. May they be a blessing upon the world, and may we, everyone. Please join now in moments of shared silence.
As you are so moved, please feel free to share the name or names of people who are on your mind or in your heart, those who might be in need of support from this beloved community. Offer their names aloud in the chat box, or even just hold their names in silent unity. May all whose names were spoken and those unspoken find peace and healing this day. My reflections for this morning are entitled What We Owe Each Other Now. Do you remember when 9 members of Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, were shot and killed? 9 African Americans, including the church's pastor and state senator, Clementa Pinckney, all gathered for Bible study, were shot and killed by a white man named Dylan Roof.
Do you remember white journalists asking family members of those killed, "Do you forgive him for killing your loved one?" That question was asked over and over, and some family members responded simply, "Yes, yes, we forgive the person who did this." I have deep respect for their accountability to their principles and values and to the teachings of their faith as they are given to understand and follow them. But when asked in that way, under such circumstances, the question, "Do you forgive?" is not about forgiveness. It is about reassuring the privileged that the status quo is safe. Following the insurrection, following the inauguration, there were and there are still calls for unity, for coming together, for healing, for letting go and moving on. Every time such a call is made, I remember the Mother Emanuel families and the question they were asked. In every effort to nullify votes cast in communities of color all over our nation, in these post-insurrection days, when a call for unity by whatever name is made, I hear echoes of a plea for reassurance. Reassurance that privileges of the status quo, privileges of the culture of white supremacy will remain. In the discipline of forgiveness, the Reverend Liz Lerner McClay, who is Unitarian, Universalist, and Jewish, writes that within Judaism, the onus to invoke forgiveness is on the wrongdoer, not the wronged. It is up to the person who did the injury to own up and admit what they did, apologize and ask for forgiveness, offer to make it up to the injured person however they can and however the injured chooses. The onus to invoke forgiveness is on the wrongdoer. When there is no such invocation and calls for unity are heard, what we owe each other is to refuse unity without justice. As a nation, we have been here before. I grew up near Appomattox County Courthouse in Virginia. In April 1865, Generals Grant and Lee met there and signed documents ending the Civil War. At the entrance to the Courthouse National Historic Park, these words greet visitors: "Where the nation reunited." No, the war ended. Reconstruction was interrupted and then destroyed in favor of appeasement. And then Jim Crow, and then. Unity without justice is neither unity nor justice. Remember what happened at the end of A Drop of Honey, the story that Catherine shared with us. The queen and her advisor survey the ruins of their land after the fire died out. They stop in the street. The queen reaches down and touches something in a small puddle on the ground. "It's honey," she said, remembering, "I guess I should have cleaned up that drop of honey in the first place. Now my whole kingdom has been lost because of it." If only before the fire, the queen had never asked, had never thought, it was not my problem. Inaugural poet Amanda Gorman had a word of warning fit for the queen. We know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation, become the future. Our blunders become their burdens. Perhaps, like me, you follow Heather Cox Richardson's Letters from an American. Each one of them I receive as a gift of clarity and historical perspective. On December 12th of last year, as she took a break from a longer letter, her daily post included this photo. I hope you can see it. It is an image that comes from Peter Ralston, and it is called Holding Ground. About the photo, Richardson wrote, "This image from Peter Ralston is called Holding Ground, and in case the boat at anchor in the rough water makes people worry, here's what Peter says about it. The title refers to those places where the bottom is good, where one's boat will be safe, and where the anchor or mooring will not drag. And where, in the middle of a 3-day storm, you hope that all of the attention you've paid to your ground tackle will reward you with the boat still there in the morning." Holding ground. Now, I am not a sailor, and so I did just a bit of research to better understand the photographer's message about that small boat in stormy water. I learned that ground tackle is a name for all sorts of stuff employed in securing a boat. And I learned a bit about what mooring involves, about how one secures a vessel with cable or anchor. And I was reminded of something else. Mooring can also be something that helps one maintain a stable position and keep one's identity, whether that be moral, intellectual, political, religious. In this extraordinary moment, with continuing calls for moving on, for letting go of what has happened most recently in our country, just moving on, we Unitarian Universalists can help hold ground. We can help hold ground for accountability. As a people of faith, we can hold that principled ground. And I mean principled, literally. Pay attention to our ground tackle, our determination to affirm individuality and limit the excesses of individualism, our determination to affirm interdependence, to promote the common good, equity, compassion, liberty, and justice for all with no qualifiers, our determination to refuse to settle for assumptions of entitlement. Pay attention to our mooring, to this community where we are called and sometimes challenged to accept one another, where we encourage one another in our spiritual growth, and where we use small d democracy to serve the good of all of us. Friends, as the new administration seeks to move us toward a different kind of unity, what we owe each other now is to hold ground. To hold ground for accountability, to hold ground for the repair of damage already done to the common good, and to prevent, to the best of our ability, at least to limit, to the best of our ability, any further damage. As New York Times columnist Charles Blow wrote, "I don't want to be unified with anyone who could openly cheer my oppression or sit silently while I endure it." We can hold ground for accountability. We are accountable to our nation's history. Again, words from inaugural poet Amanda Gorman, who put it in sharp focus. Being American is more than a pride we inherit. It is the past we step into and how we repair it. We can hold ground for accountability. We are accountable for justice in the present moment. And once again, words from Amanda Gorman: we will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation, become the future. Our blunders become their burdens. Holding ground for accountability. This is what we owe each other now.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer the limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience transformed by our care.
I love this church. One reason I give to First U is because it is there for me and my family, and one never knows when one might need a little help. This church, as we found out during our pandemic online experiment, is so much more than a building. Just this week, I reached out to a friend and a mentor when I had a COVID exposure scare and I needed to talk it out. She was there for me. She is part of this community, and that's just another simple reason that I am too. Let's give a little to support our mission, to support our staff, and to keep supporting each other. Is there a community member you haven't seen or heard from in a while? This might be a great time to reach out and gently inquire about how they are. For those of you able to financially support First U, on the screen are 3 ways to give. You can mail a check, donate online at firstuwilm.org/donate-now, or you can use the Give Plus app on your smart device. Thank you for all that you give to this community. Join me in dedicating our offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these, our offerings.
Hey, you guys, Leah here. So I must be among millions, if not billions of people who tuned in to the inauguration yesterday on January 20th, 2021. And I was inspired by every moment of it, but especially wrapped and lifted, exalted, just completely fixated and moved by Amanda Gorman's poem, her presence, her beauty, her artistry. And so this song was born. There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always your light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always your light in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always your light. There is always light. We are ready to see it. There is always your light. There is always light. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always darkness. There is always light. There is always darkness. To see the light, to be the light, to shine our eyes in the dark of night and be a climb this hill. Together we will. There is always light. There is always dark. There is always shine. There is always shine. Be the light.
Our closing words for this morning are by Rilke. Why then have to be human? Oh, not because happiness exists, not out of curiosity, but because being here means so much. Because everything here, vanishing so quickly, seems to need us, and strangely keeps calling to us. To have been here once, completely, even if only once, this is beyond undoing.
We extinguish our chalice so that we might go out into the world to shine our lights and continue our journey together for peace, for justice, and for unity.